Hi everyone and welcome along. Today we are going to dive back into new botanical painting and try painting the chrysanthemum together. So many of you loved painting the hydrangea project from the book with me last week, so I thought why not have another go. So grab your paints and let's get started. I was just joking with Ant that I look back at these projects and go, oh my goodness, do I really just need a size 4 brush? Okay then. So anyway, we're going to paint the chrysanthemum today. I find that quite a hard word to say. But yeah, another project from New Botanical Painting to help you actually get stuck into the book and just offer a little additional tutelage for you if you are feeling a little bit flat or you just love a little bit of a live tutorial on top of the diagrams as we go through. So I'll move that to one side and we need, as I say, just the one brush, size 4. I mean, it is the brush I use the most, so that does make sense. Then we need cadmium red, so I'm just waking that up. Cadmium red. And then cadmium orange, which I've got along here, wake that up too. And then just sap green. The joys of the simplicity of the new botanical painting projects. I did have such mindfulness about creating really accessible projects that are broken down into simple steps, and also I just didn't want you to feel like you needed loads of equipment, materials and kit. That's what I love about watercolour. Okay, so we're going to begin by drawing a faint pencil stem. Now I start with a curve and then another curve and then another curve. That is how they tend to grow, and we'll be placing leaves and things off those stems. And then we need a curve to create the actual flower itself. Now I'm going to just extend that a bit further, because extending that line really helps us when we are placing in our petals to know what direction the flower is facing in. And then I'm going to just draw a sort of cross-section curve, a nice sort of flat open curve, which is going to show me the base of my flower. So I am going to begin with some very dilute cadmium red. Now that's very important because what we're going to be doing is building up layers of colour. Gosh, I haven't painted this flower for years. I'm quite nervous. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a nice sort of soft, quite pressed down shape, and gradually take off the pressure and bring it back down to that anchoring point in a dilute cadmium red, as you can see. So they're all coming back into the middle, and we're going to have some sort of curving right around the edge, but the most important thing is that you anchor your petals. Even if they don't quite make it to the right back to the middle, just keep on going. Now some of you may prefer to start there and come up, but then you just need to make sure that you've got a nice rounded finish on your petal. So what I'm looking to do is create a sort of fairly even cup shape. That looks quite nice to me, quite nice and even. And now we need to move our attentions to the petals that sort of curve out so much that they sort of flop down. So same anchoring point, but this time I'm just moving them this way. So I quite like to come from the centre and squish the brush down as I go for these ones. So fine point, and then you can just finish it off like that. We're going to have a few more coming down. And we'll have one more here. There we go. Lovely. So that is our basic base layer. and we want that to dry fully before we add our second layer. The second layer is going to be a slightly more concentrated cadmium red, so just get a bit more colour onto your palette now. You can see here, just mixing up a bit more. Still needs to be nice and wet, of course, because we're still working in fairly sort of translucent layers. The beauty of working with sort of controlled loose styles like this is we're not sort of slopping tons of water onto the page, which means things dry fairly quickly. However, we just need another minute before we put the second layer on. Our painting is now dry, and we're going to add a second layer of petals with a more concentrated bit of paint, and I'm going to be painting a bit of fluff on my brush. Always check for fluff. I'm going to be painting them sort of in the gaps, but they'll sort of be overlapping, and let's go for it. Still anchoring down to that central point. It's very important that your size 4 brush makes a really nice fine tip with the bristles, because a brush that you've had for a while might start to struggle to create a really nice fine point, but it is really important. Now, some of these petals in the second layer, we're going to have maybe a little bit of a twist on the end, just a little bit of character creeping in with some of these petals, a little bit of a curl. And if it takes you a few brush strokes to achieve the shape you want, don't worry about it, that's absolutely fine. I find that quite often is the case for me. I'm going to bring one right up from the top. What's important is that you're not just painting the exact same ones over the top. We do want a little bit of difference. And then we're going to add in a few into the lower rung as well. And we're going to let these dry as well. This second layer of petals is where you're basically filling up the shape, so you might just sort of want to, like I said, just sort of let the first section of it dry a little bit and then come in and just add in a few more just to really fill out the shape until you're sort of happy with having a lovely full flower. I might just pop one or two that are just really falling away there. Okay, really happy with that. So we're going to look at the stem now. We've got sap green here, waking that up. And in the book I say, chrysanthemums have broad, ridged, gnarled stems. So that paints a picture, doesn't it? So we're going to paint 2 parallel lines in wet sap green for the stem. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to pop in one there and then another. And the hope is that we get enough gap in the middle to allow us to then choose if we want to blend certain bits, but it also gives us just little hints of little bits of gappage for a bit of interest on the stem. And I'm not going too far beyond where the stem junction is. And now I've got to be careful coming up here that I don't get too involved with the flower itself. So again, another example of when it's really important to have a good fine tip on your brush, because moments like that you want to have as much control as possible if you are using a large brush. Of course, you could ignore my instructions, shock horror, and get yourself a slightly smaller brush if you want, but don't worry about it. So up in here we've got a few little sepals that we're going to see. Just about okay. And now we're going to add just some little leaves up the stem first. So again, I really want a nice fine point, and I'm just going to paint them little tip of the brush and then squish the brush right down and curve it over into a little C-curve leaf. You'll find there'll be one side that this feels nice and easy and another side where it feels really hard, so don't worry too much. So I'll pop one in at the junction and one there. Okay, now it's time to actually paint in some full-size chrysanthemum leaves. So we're going to do this in a few steps. I'm going to pop one in on this side, so we're going to do a really large sort of C-curve tapered line, a little bit like the petals we were painting. So just want to make sure I've got a nice fine point. So we're going to start with a nice sort of broad fanning curve, and then whilst that's still wet, I'm just going to add some rather sort of rough brush strokes to it to create that nice leafy edge, and then I'm going to mirror it, so coming up this side and add in some of that there. So let's do another one of those. Let's pop one in here. Just gonna tilt my page a little bit so I can do this. So really squish that brush down and enjoy the sort of rough edge that squishing your brush down gives you. Now some people like to do it from the top downwards and sort of get to the finer point of the leaf there, and then you could just finish it off at a fine point there, and then if you wanted a few little extra little leaves there. And that is the new Botanical Painting Chrysanthemum. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed going back into new botanical painting with me, and if you had a go at the tutorial without a copy of the book and you want to get your hands on one, then the episode notes are where you need to look to get the link to buy the book. So I want to say a massive thank you to my patrons for their support, because that support enables me to keep creating these videos that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed this one, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on. And of course, if you subscribe, then you'll never miss another video. Until next time, bye!